Well, everybody's here, ready to go. Hope you had a great lunch out there. Thanks for coming to the boot camp. I want to just introduce myself first, and then Kobe here. My name's Dave Sullivan. I'm the professional services manager for North America for VSI. So I handle a lot of projects for customers that need help advancing along, whether that be Alpha, Integrity, x86, getting their systems, correct versions, supported versions, things like that. So this session here, for the next probably 40 minutes or so here, we wanted to put something together, and obviously this is really quick. I mean, you can't, Alpha Integrity to x86 in 40 minutes is not going to be not going to be something that'll happen. I know some of you were around back when I used to do the labs, when we did the other ones. I mean, those were 4-hour labs, and those were pretty mind-blowing. But the purpose of this presentation today is to give you the tools and fundamentals of an x86 migration to help you, get into that proof of concept or determine what level you're going to need for support, either from yourself, from us, right? So I brought in Kobe Smith here from VSI. Kobe, I'll let you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got to VSI.
Yeah, so I'm Kobe Smith. I'm on the support team. I'm one of the VMS babies, as Debbie would affectionately call me. Yeah, so I've been here about a year. Got into VMS and learning about essentially the migration from these older systems to x86. And my job has been to essentially troubleshoot most of the hypervisor issues, a lot of the virtual machine configuration problems that honestly, most of them are solved through documentation, like really going by it step by step. And yeah, so I wrote some documents for my team on support, and here I am working with Dave and helping you guys.
And once I saw those documents, I go, right this way, sir.
Right. So yeah, so he brought me in, and you guys have been doing this a lot longer than I am. So hopefully I'll be able to teach some new, but likely not. So
right. As you'll learn going forward in the x86 migration is the advent of the hypervisor, right? So we've kind of stuck something in the way of getting to VMS, and that's where a lot of us, at least very new to me, right? And I'm just used to doing give me my command line, give me my console, and let me peck away. So Kobe, I've been doing a lot of setup in this and going through. I figured I'd go and use a lot of our instructions, and that's when I'd start calling Kobe up. Hey, I'm doing this, But I think the only thing as we get into the thing here is that the guides that we have is, if you're going to use them for setup, it is imperative that you actually kind of review them first and then go through them. I went through it one time saying, oh, I know this stuff, I can just make it happen. I would have been much better off going through the steps as listening. So we'll get running on the presentation here. And again, our goal is to help you get information and guide you along. The good news is I don't see any buffet items left that, you may throw things at me with some of the things I might say, not with Kobe. He's all set here, but we'll get to that. So I'm going to have Kobe start, and he's going to bring us in through the hypervisor piece and that sort of thing. And I'm going to let him handle his phase of it right here. So
okay, great.
Right in.
All right, let's get started. So just a quick overview of what we're going to go over today. Some of the challenges and considerations when you're getting ready to migrate your systems to x86. We're going to go through those. The 5 steps of a successful migration. I felt it was important to, when outlining the fundamentals, to be very pre-planned and focused on each phase of the process, because like Dave said, if you think you know one part and I got to I know my system and it's fine, and you blast through it, you miss a step, you're gonna have to start all over. So it's very imperative to go step by step and one by one. So I'm gonna outline some of those for you. When it comes to preparing your x86 environment, that's where I'm getting to some of the example supported hypervisors we have, virtual machine configuration. Yeah. We have some more detailed talks when it comes to specifics like EXXI being hosted by Robert Brooks in a couple of days. And then we have a talk by Camille tomorrow on all of the supported hypervisors specifically when porting to x86. So this is going to be a little more general, quick overview. We only have 40 minutes, so we can't get in the details of each one, but I'll try to outline that for you. And then from there, I'll let Dave take over how you build a new system as soon as you get everything set up, configured, and you're ready to migrate over. After that, we can talk briefly about the future plans for x86 and things you could expect to come later, because there are a few products and aspects of integrity that haven't quite been ported over yet to x86, and we're hoping in the next couple of years or so to get those done. And then we're just going to end with time for questions, links, guides, references, and some of that documentation we talked about earlier. So yeah, when it comes to the 5 stages of migration, first major step and potentially the longest, along with a set of planning, is going to be reviewing your current system. We like to use the term x86 readiness when we talk about what exactly do you have on your system that might not make it, that can very easily transfer over, that is sort of in a middle area where we're working on porting or we're working on something to get to in the next year or so. So assessment is the first step. Planning, this is where you're going to really write most of your steps out one by one. We're going to get the commands down in a project plan. This is how I operate. This is how Dave operates for a lot of the migrations we already do and upgrades. And you want to get the commands down. You want to get each step of the process down in order. Make sure you know the prerequisites of where your products need to be installed, when they get installed, and try to minimize the amount of reboots you do, because we want to limit downtime of any current system. So once you get to performing your migration, this is where you get knee deep in the documentation and you start to look at which hypervisor you chose out of our supported list of them. And you want to orient your focus towards that one and start to go step by step on how to configure a hypervisor, set it up, initiate one machine. And if you're a little more on the scripting savvy side, you can automate that process yourself and start to rapid fire configuration of virtual machines very quickly. So from there, you install OpenVMS through ISO, get it loaded, and through all the planning that you did in phase 2, you're able to seamlessly copy over your environment, whether it's through system backups, whether it's through directly sending the files over through the network, and get everything loaded up on your system, on the new x86 system. After that's done, validation is the part where you have your x86 platform ready to go, VMS is loaded, you've logged in, and you try launching each thing that you're able to successfully port. At that point, this is where you're going to be very comfortable, where you're going to be very familiar, and you just launch each product, configure each product, and hope they work. As for the last step, optimization, this is where you guys are, again, probably more comfortable than I would be strictly on the VMS side, where post-installation, you start to fine-tune your system. When it comes to hypervisor specifics for optimization, that will be something that is important to look at your hypervisor of choice and go into using the documentation that you found for that hypervisor and adjusting that specifically. So yeah, that is our 5-step methodology. It's worked pretty well so far. I usually do it every time I need to do a migration or an upgrade, or maybe I'm testing a new hypervisor on my own, whether it's from ESXi onto Linux and KVM. I follow this myself. So When it comes to the beginning phases of your migration, again, I really can't emphasize enough how important it is to prepare, because as you start to plan out this project, if you run into an issue at some point, it's going to derail the rest of the process. So we find that the two primary reasons a lot of projects come in behind schedule or you find extra downtime is through incorrect planning and not quite the correct amount of risk management and speculation. So when you understand your project size, you understand your scope, you understand how many servers you have already, what products exactly you need, that's going to allow you to very quickly and get everything transferred over once it's time for the configuration stages. As it says up there, this is going to save you time, it's going to save you money, headaches when it comes to estimates for your business and how accurately that'll be done. This is the preparation is, again, the most important part.
Right. And Kobe, something that I've learned through this process is that with the hypervisor piece of it, the instructions, as I said, are very explicit. And if you miss a check mark or you miss a box or you mistick something, you wind up going through the whole process only to have to do it again. So what he's saying here is that this is very important. And somebody who's kind of done this from the ground up, I have seen this in action. So do take note.
So as we move on to the analysis portion of the migration phases, you're going to simply just mark down what you got. How many CPU cores does your processor have? When you're configuring your host, when you're writing down your host aspects, and you're trying to find out exactly how much it has, this is where the resources of your virtual machines are going to come from. So as you make each and every machine, it's going to take resources from your host and virtualize them and split them up into multiple machines for use and installing VMS on. So it's important to know your total aspects of the host before you configure the hypervisor to know exactly how many VMs you can really make and how much configuration is even possible. When we talk about system information, these are your already established network configurations in your server, already things that you've known. I mean, you have your system parameters set in there. You have things set up and running the way you like it. So you note that down, and once you have the x86 environment loaded, you start it up. Products, we are going to go into later an x86 readiness tool that can look at the products you currently have installed, can tell you which ones are going to be able to transfer over easily and which ones may not have a newly developed version yet or are in the works. And when it comes to storage, that's all your data, the hard disks, your LED disks, your shadow sets. Again, note these down and make sure you're ready for migration. I'm sure many of you have installed or tried x86 already on 921.
Actually, how about a show of hands?
Yeah, who has tried
How many-
921,
how many have
922?
already, okay, great.
Awesome.
Oh, and you've done it twice.
Great, two of them. So if you're one of the people who haven't, this slide's for you. This is where we're going to get into how you contact and just get started. You're going to go straight to sales, contact them, get an email. We have Mike in the back who will probably take a lot of those emails, and you'll get an authorization pack. You'll get an account on the VSI service portal. This is where we host all the products, all the updates for your VMS operating system. And it's simple. It's a click each link. It's a download, and you have that physical file on your local system. So from there, once you download your ISO and the necessary products from the service portal, we're getting on to configuration of the hypervisor. Again, which specific hypervisor you choose is going to be from our documented list of supported hypervisors. You can go off the rails, you can try your own, but it may not work quite as well as our tests have gotten it to go so far. So That's up to your own discretion.
And to dovetail into that, we have had customers try some different hypervisors that we don't yet support, and they've done it successfully. And some of them are proceeding with them, but the caveat is that if you're having issues, we're only going to be able to go so deep with it. The reason why we have supported hypervisors is we've done the testing on them. So if we haven't, vetted it and tested it, and you come to us with something like that, it's going to be, you could run into a challenge with some. That's.
What's the whole questions to the end or jump in?
We might answer a few of them as we get going here. But go ahead.
Related to that, so there's
Yeah.
a matrix of the VMware and flavors of licensing models.
Right.
Obviously, the upper tier includes the serial port.
Right.
The other ones don't. You have directions on how to modify the configuration to add a network part, even like VMware Fusion.
Right.
But in the actual documentation, it says it's not supported. So is it supported or not on the lower tiers if you make your own serial port? And certainly had customers at it because it's way cheaper, right?
Right. It's much cheaper than the higher support tiers that, yeah.
Way bigger.
Yeah, we've had a lot of customers start to leave the VMware ecosystem due to a lot of the licensing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
You can break apart that configuration and add in your own serial port that does the pipe name through another.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
That's a tough thing for us, right?
Yeah.
Because when the polls came out, when we were asking everybody what hypervisor you all want, VMware was 80%, right? So, I mean, all the muscle went into that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now all of a sudden with Broadcom and everything that's happening, it's like, we want this, we want that. So we are listening, and you will see more hypervisors show up as time moves down the road. Yeah.
yeah. So again, if the documentation says it's not supported, it won't be supported. But of course, the possibility of configuring your own serial port on those lower tiers of the VMware ecosystem is possible.
Not supported, but here's the way to make it
Right. Right.
We've done that a lot over the years.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other companies that have the same different badge numbers I've had, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that a lot of times, right? This storage array, it works, but will we support it? Well, I don't know. Well, if we have a real big problem, maybe not, but, right.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah. To answer your question, do you have
It's prohibited, but you really need it, it's allowed.
that's right.
exactly?
And you can manage, somewhere on the slides here, it said managing your risk, right? So you can manage the risk of using that depending on how and what you're gonna use it for. I mean, if you're gonna use it for different things, great. If it's gonna be in the middle of production,
That you're on your own.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as-
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you got something that's going on, we'll certainly take a look at it. Right, but, caveat emptor.
right.
All right.
Yeah. So post configuration of that chosen supported hypervisor for the easiness of transferring a lot of your backups and your files and your data, networking should be first. It's very simple in a lot of these environments to just add a VNIC, a virtualized network card, throw it on there, configure the IP address, and get direct access into your virtual machine. So again, in the documentation, if you're able to go for that, that's probably the first step I would take to get that going. These last 2 points are for any of the products and developments that you personally made on your systems. If there's code changes you need to make, we have some resources and on linked at the end of this presentation for you to go and do that. Yeah, so I'm going to move on to the next slide where we talk about getting to a little more of the x86 configurations or which hypervisor you choose. The most important docs that I use as essentially Bibles for setting up a new virtual machine are the release notes of whichever version you're hoping to install on VMS, as well as the installation guides. We had someone who printed out a physical copy of the Boot Manager Guide, which is
There we go.
also an excellent resource. So I should add that to my presentation. But those two, they're online and they're freely available. It's completely necessary, as Dave mentioned earlier, step by step, one by one. You get it done and you go through it, and something doesn't work. 90% of the time, you miss the step.
And in this case, the release notes are kind of paramount. And for me, for the most part, I'm going to just glance at a release note. Yeah, I know what it's supposed to do. All right, fine. However, in x86, the release notes, a lot of information is there that you need to follow.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So don't jump across the release notes too quickly.
Yep.
The Proxmox is not officially supported yet.
The what?
No.
Not yet. Internally, we're using it quite a bit. So I'm also hoping it's it does get supported soon, because it's a very neat, well-made, well-organized, free alternative to a lot of the VMware licenses we talked about. So here's hoping sometime soon. So yeah, again, I know this was a very general talk for the hypervisor portion. I really do implore you to go to maybe the ESXi specific talk that goes on, and as well as the options talk from Camille tomorrow. But from here, we're going to go into post hypervisor setup. You're in VMS, you're ready to go. What changes? How do you actually get your system going, and maybe start up a cluster, build your shadow sets and things like that. And I'm going to let Dave take over that portion of it. So thank you for your time, and we're going to go this part.
All right, and thank you very much. And, we're very lucky to have somebody like Kobe here, who's kicked off a lot of this stuff in the x86 world. So you all know, if most all of you are under support contracts or something. So if you've got some issues going on, Kobe is very findable, and we have other people as well. But yes, we're also here to help. So there's many things to do.
Cell phone number?
Stay with the email.
Our goal right now is to get everybody, in some form of x86, playground, and making sure that it's in your ecosystem, and and the things that you're going to need to do it. The hypervisor switch thing, is something that, obviously with a lot of people are running from that and using different things. So we know, we're just trying to steer the ship accordingly, so there'll be others that'll be showing up. I actually think we were just doing something with KVM, Red Hat hypervisor too. I don't think that's on the list yet, is it? But there's some things. It's due for 923, right? So for those in the KVM world, we've got some stuff coming down the door. But Kobe, thank you.
Yep.
And I really appreciate your help on all this, and being here to get us x86 ready.
x86 ready.
All
Thank you for having me.
All right,
I appreciate it.
well, hang in there. You might know some other stuff here too. So,
Yeah.
So OpenVMS is OpenVMS when we finally get the OS up, right? Same installation procedures. Remember, it's a brand new system disk, so we got to reinstall everything. And and this is where some of the issues can get in. Yes.
To make a point that when you're doing your install, it often says, do you want to use hard links? I highly recommend you to look for what hard links means to your environment, because you'll find a lot better than it was just.
Right, and I think that's if you were coming from some really old. I mean, that hard links thing, I think, is in there from like ancient Egypt. I think when we were first building the pyramids for VMS.
But it doesn't use hard links by default.
Right, it does.
That's the point.
Right. So, right, and
It asks.
Get asked you.
It asks.
Right.
But people usually say no.
Right.
Like,
just say no.
However, unlike the manual set, release note sets, it doesn't ask you whether you want DECnet 4 or DECnet Plus. It just installs DECnet Plus, not asking this question.
We've been through that a few times already. And I,
On what version? I feel like it
Nine
does,
two
it,
two.
922, it does not ask for a DECnet Plus, yes or no? Just automatically installs.
I did it twice now.
As of 923, is that different?
Yeah,
No, automatic install?
it's just doing,
It asks, yeah,
Yeah.
for every TI. It does ask, yeah.
it does.
Fresh installation.
Yeah,
Initialized instead of preserving, and it doesn't ask.
I had, due to some reasons, I have to preserve DECnet 4. I had to remove DECnet 5, DECnet Plus.
Yeah.
because when there's nothing on there, it did ask.
It asks, each time I
It
use
was
it,
blank. Oh, yeah.
would you like to
sorry.
install DECnet Plus?
If you happen to have it captured, screenshots or something, whatever.
It just goes, by.
Yeah.
Anyway, just about fine.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen, and I just even plunked up EE 9.2
-3,
right, and from scratch, and that asked me which one I wanted to use.
Yeah.
Because it does say you want 4 or 5s.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that.
Well, it doesn't ask
but-
you, do you want to use DECnet?
Do you want to use
You
that?
have to say yes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's- and then it goes
Right.
by.
Wow. Yeah,
But even afterward, it says, would you like to install DECnet Plus?
right.
Maybe I was fortunate.
Either that or there's maybe some extra keying going on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Is the install kit from VSI?
Yes.
Yeah, that could be, right. Right, so as I was saying here, you need a new system disk, so everything has to be reinstalled. So back in the assessment phases over here that Kobe was bringing into light, we have to make sure that all the products that we have are going to have a x86 equivalent going forward. There's no binary translator here, so we were very fortunate going from Alpha to Integrity. We had AEST translation for images that were off in Never Never Land. Now we don't. So if you don't have the source code, we're going to have to figure out ways around whatever widget it is you got going on. So, we have a great tool actually here for those in the planning phase, right? We have a great tool called x86 Readiness. I think Jan spoke about it this morning. This is stuff that a lot of times gets initiated through our account team, through Michael, in conversations with the customers. We have a tool called VSI
Dollar support.
Dollar support. Yeah. So it's a little command procedure. It's a data gather tool that we have, but we've designed a lot of back-end tools off of that. So it creates a couple of small files. It doesn't do anything harmful to the machine. Once we have those files, we have a program and a pretty elaborate database. I don't see that Nikita. We have a gentleman, Nikita, with us. He's actually here and around for any ISV and third party and things like that. He's been maintaining a list. We have a huge database of all the things that, as we make them work or don't work, we can run it through this tool, and within a couple of minutes, we'll have a very good report. I'll show you an output of it in a second here, of how your x86 assessment would look like. And through your sales and account reps, if it's something you guys all want, we'll run that for you free of charge, and have a meeting and go over anything with you with it. So we want people to get x86 ready. So we've developed a lot of these tools to help people go forward, and find a way forward. So, and we also have professional and application services, to help you if you need, more assistance. And those would be for a small fee. So, this is the x86 readiness tool that we have, and I think I took this off an alpha, but take it off anything. We have this sifter that runs through and looks at some of these things that, show up on a list, right? So anything that comes back to me in green says, there's a go forward for that in x86. So as you can see here, even with the alpha, because I've got some customers now that want to run right from alpha to x86. No sense stopping at integrity, right? So but yeah, I mean, will run this tool for you. We give you a data grabber tool. It takes all of about a couple of minutes to run. You send us back the data. We'll sift it against our database. This one here came up with a couple of things in red, right? So DIAA is the old DIAG tool from, the Alpha hardware, anal error or whatever it was, right? That everybody DIAG/sense, we all want to know about hardware. Now we're virtual, nobody cares about hardware. And this DTL dev, I wasn't sure what that was, but there's another page. We go through and show some different things of where these products are. And the thing is we've run a lot of these for a lot of customers now, hundreds of customers worth of data. And then when we find something that we don't know about, we get the project head for that engaged, and he goes and figures out what we can do with this particular product. Is it still around? Is there anything we can do with it? Whatever. So very handy to have. So building systems, right? I mean, here's a few things. It's a good thing nobody throw anything in. So on a standalone system, right, including installing configuring OpenVMS, it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's networking layered product, same as we used to do in the previous architectures. However, when it comes to clustering, right now in the VSI and x86 evolution, there are some key differences. Common system disks in x86 are not yet available. So don't be thrown, don't you? So at the moment, there's no common system disk. There's 3 things that are preventing us from doing that. It is on the list. It is on the horizon. I just can't quite see over the edge of the horizon yet. But one of them's a couple of things, right? It's the dump file issue that we have, and the memory disk, right? So there's some things that are at the moment inhibiting our ability to common system disk. And I know a lot of customers want common system disks. So, again, there's a few things happening here, right? If we can get you to, at least get an x86 box up and running and do some code testing and that sort of thing. By the time it shakes out, maybe we get a little further down the line here, and common system disks look a little better at this, right? But if joining an x86, if you're joining a cluster, right, if you're going to go into an existing cluster, I know a lot of people migrate that way. I do. I want to, some people probably still have alphas sitting in with their integrities, and I do too. So
architecture clusters.
Well, the thing is a lot of times the alpha had the stuff that I was running that I needed, and I could, it just, rather than go find another widget in Itanium, it was, if you can keep another box running, great. However, in joining an existing cluster x86 member to share the data, other disks with the Itanium, the disk must be shared through the instance via MSCP server. So, if you've got, you want to bring your x86 machine in, you're going to have to go in and put your Itaniums need to be running. Your storage is going to be behind the Itaniums, right? So the only way to get that is turn on MSCP serving, get the machine up MSCP serving. I will probably jump a slide here, but and also coming out in 9.2.3 is the pass-through, yes, fiber channel pass-through, where you will be able to
on VMs that support it.
What's that?
On the VMs that support it.
Correct. On the VMs that are
Just
supported.
a section.
Right.
Combination,
Right. And again, you'll have to keep checking our list of supported items when you want to go down these roads.
ESXi, namely.
Right.
I'm just observing that ESXi is not the same as Hyper-V, which is not the same as VirtualBox.
Right.
And you have to check each one individually what you're trying to do.
Absolutely true. It's also imperative to understand the difference between level 1 hypervisors and level 2 hypervisors, because if you are using Windows Hyper-V, that's already on top of the Windows OS, then you install another hypervisor on top of that. Nested virtualization causes more headaches than we'd like to admit. So it's, oh yeah.
But
To say
to
the least,
remember,
yeah.
having when the fiber channel direct access becomes available, That's when, obviously things get a little more, I mean, people trying to, I just see people mimicking some environments, right? You got a cluster of Titaniums, you're all sharing a storage array, sharing your data disk, sharing everything, right? So when this becomes available, you would certainly be able to mount direct access, mount your disks, and get rid of the MSCP server in the middle. And I haven't been able to do a lot of performance analysis testing around the MSCP serving. MSCP server does a pretty good job at doing things. I say pretty good. But again, your mileage might vary. So if you do a lot of really hard IO, then, going direct to your storage array is probably going to be the better solution. Was there, do you have a question? No? Okay.
I had one on your last bullet point.
Yeah.
Everything's got its own system disk and you can't upgrade and things like that. A new system disk. Is the titanium authorization files and so forth compatible?
Yes.
The files?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, right. That's where VMS is VMS, right? Your UAF, your writes list, your Q file, right? All portable, can be shared with. I almost would have anybody at this point, if you still have your files, those type of files on your system disk, and you're planning on running down the x86 road where you're going to have an x86 box in the same cluster, you're thinking of maybe I'm going to plug in the fiber channel cards, I might want direct access, that sort of thing. I would actually come up with a plan during a downtime window to move those to an off system disk, just to get that in and make it a little different. I have customers already, a couple of them that I've just gone into bringing the x86 in. I've just defined, those files to the sys $common, sys, XE, QMan, blah, 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 right? So you can go in and define those, and the logicals before you bring when they're in the cluster or before you bring in the cluster, you can redefine those. And when you do the reboot, it'll all come in, right? But yeah, UAF writes list queues, all interchangeable, all same. So very handy, and there's been many situations where I've been very happy they haven't been on the system disk. But I'm going to be doing one shortly that I know is going to stay on the system disk. It doesn't matter. I'm going to point the logical somewhere, right? So if the x86 machine's coming in, I got to MSCP serve the disks anyway and mount them. And, who cares whether I'm defining it to the system disk on the integrity or not, because it's the only way you can share it. That's where fiber channel pass-through becomes some kind of key element, at least to me, where I can actually mount the disk direct, right? And then I don't have to worry, I don't necessarily want to be mounting the system disk direct to the other system. I want some other disk that holds them. So OpenVMS has its commonalities at that point, right? So yeah, right here, if your migration plan includes adding x86, to a cluster, these files are all interchangeable. We suggested it'd be best to offload them to a secondary drive ahead of time. And then that way there, whatever you want to do for access to those down the road gets easier. When adding a node to the cluster, you'll need to know, these are some things that, if you haven't added a node in a while that's not member of a common system disk, right? You're going to need to know your cluster group ID and password. If you're like me, I have absolutely no idea. These clusters were built years ago, the people that are running them are, the username and passwords are older than the people running them sometimes, right? That's how long they've been there. But, now that you're going to be bringing in another system disk, and we're going to we have now, thanks to Kobe, have figured out a way how to get cluster authorized through this little utility, sys $MD, to transfer cluster authorized.dat into the memory disk.
Handy.
Huh?
Handy.
Very handy.
I would say you could just copy it manually onto the disk.
Yeah.
You can just copy the file manually.
You can just change the
Right.
And you have to touch the running systems. You can print it without changing running systems. You can just copy the file.
Right.
Right.
Right, because it's still cluster authorized.dat. It's still the same deal. All the little guts are inside it, but You know, if it's a bare bones start, we, you know, before, you know, when the x86 instance is up on its own, not clustered yet, right? If we can run sysupdate, sysmd and get it in there. So that's handy to know, right? Because that's something you'll need to know when you're migrating. Also, x86 system as a member cluster. I mean, it's going to have its own system disk, and you have to remember it gets its disks via MSCP serving if you want to share, you know, with another member. But so again, UAF rights list queues. I'd like to see them all start to get offloaded in preparation for mixed clusters. If you're not going to mix clusters, then it really doesn't matter. And well, actually it will, and I'll explain that in a minute. So adding more x86 instances to a cluster, having comes, yeah, becomes more valuable, right? Now, did I have it? Next slide about the x86 nodes, no comment, right? So, right, so that's it, adding more instances, right? So if you're going to add more x86 instances, you don't have a common disk in x86, so you need a system disk, a system disk, a system disk, a system disk right now, because there's no common system disk. So if you want a 5-node cluster in x86, you've got 5 separate system disks. So it's kind of a drag, because then if you've got upgrades and things like that, you've got 5 separate patches, 5 separate disks, whatever. But moving that file and having cluster authorized and all that stuff in a separate disk becomes really handy when you're starting to bring up individual system disks, right? So that way, you know, if you prep your initial cluster to have it offloaded, and then we x86 ones, and we, you know, we can start pointing it to those, to the offloaded one, it gets a lot easier, because you certainly don't want all those different files locally. It makes it very, very confusing. Yeah.
Going back to the previous slide, we're talking about function pass-through.
Yeah,
For customers for whom function pass-through is not going to.
right. Okay.
And what's the other thing you have to be interested in where they don't pass it through, but you can do your disk?
Yeah, so you can't have, right, you can't have the sharing between the,
The raw disks,
right,
yeah.
So the assumption I've made with our customers is that rather than trying to solve the type of change problem, we're just simply going to bypass it entirely and use local storage. And
which you can, yeah,
just use
local storage, shadowing, right,
and shadowing between an Itanium and an x86. Where
Right.
the Itanium's got fiber channel and the x86 has got local disks. So
right, because it's their MSCP serving over there, so it doesn't matter. I mean, we don't, it's just another mechanism to get at them, right? I mean, it's another path, right? And it's a cheap path, so you don't have to buy cards and.
In that matter, it's good to have the MSCP serving enabled as a path of last resort.
Absolutely. It costs nothing to keep it there going, right? So yeah, no, that works fine.
We found this. Local disks. Literally local systems.
Right.
2 x86 nodes on 2 physically separate machines on 2 separate.
Mhm.
Local storage.
Right, local storage.
Because nowadays that's how people, a lot of our customers have stopped using storage trays. But because in big data centers, you don't use storage trays. So all
Everything's in a glob.
local and you just have resources.
Right.
You move around.
Yeah, they get different speeds on my blender for them now. You want a little? Right. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, so I think for many customers, microgen issues.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as I said, there's so many different ways to set it up, you know, and it just depends on the environment that, again, with the planning and what you need for throughput. You know, you may find yourself, you know, in a situation where that works great, and that's awesome. Let's see where we are here. Yeah, so 923 will introduce PCI pass-through, allowing you to add fiber channel adapters to your system for direct access to your storage. And I put the little, you know, the asterisk there because you're going to have to make sure you check with us and check with the documentation and make sure that the system that you're getting, is going to be, supported, for that use.
They dump off system, what about dump off system disk instead of sharing?
What's that?
What about dump off system disk?
Yeah, so dump off system disk is,
If that's the one obstacle to running.
it's actually, dump off system disk would be one less obstacle.
Yes.
And it would be one less obstacle to getting the common system disk figured out.
That's exactly right.
Right, and that's also on the table. So
Yeah.
we know we could do that. It's just trying to get around a couple of things on the memory disk, and there was one other play to be named later.
This could literally be a USB at this point. Dump off
Yeah.
system disk could literally be a USB stuck in the USB.
It could be,
There's no reason why.
no, I mean,
Timing, you don't care.
right, but as I said, I mean, that's definitely something that Camille and I have talked about, so it's on the horizon. So are many other things, right? I mean, further enhancements around the dump file, that's the present reason for the most, I say that's the primary reason, but we can solve that by going off system disk. However, there's two other things that have to be solved and again, that will then leave the door open for the common system disk to return, which a lot of the customers I talk to want. So hardware configuration support with the PCI pass-through in 9.3, obviously make sure that the card and variant being used are all vetted. Qualified systems, right now, I think, what are we at, right? HP servers, we have one variant of the 16 gigabit Q logic card that's vetted right now. 32 gigabit, that's on the horizon as well, coming out with 9.2.3, down the road from 9.2.3. So it's, for those interested in it, the path is going to get people that want direct access function. Dell support is also on the list. I don't know, some birdie told me that, so I threw it up on the slide. Dell came very late to the party, and they were kind of hard to deal with. So it's been very hard to get them in the blessed configuration, but they are at the table now talking. So and let's see, what do I have here? Supported options. Yeah. So again, if you're going down that direct access stuff, right? The supported options for the storage arrays are going to be limited to what's already on our website. So you're limited to the storage arrays we presently have listed, from, what is it, Altera, and there's a whole bunch of them out there, but pretty much everything that ran on the Itanium is what we're going to run on the direct access stuff.
I'm doing a presentation on that Friday.
Huh?
I'm doing a presentation on that Friday.
Oh, beautiful. I'll be there. So anyway, that's the deal, right? So how many people here are thinking of that they would want direct access storage? Okay, all right. So direct access storage, that's a good deal. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So keep listening, right? So right now, it's 9.2, the pass-through is going to get released. The problem is you do need to check with us, check with your account managers. Very strict on the hardware that we're going to allow that to be supported on. Right now, just HPE gear, Gen 10, Gen 11 at the moment. We hope to add to that, but I can't stress enough, if you're going down this x86 road and you're going to buy something or you're going to run something, that you make sure either through our website or calling, your account manager, or they'll engage Kobe, myself, whoever, make sure that what you want to do is in our supported list. And if it's not, we can let you know. Again, we'd hate to have people, buy all this hardware, which a few customers have, and laying everything out, and we're going, we can't support it. Well, you can run it, but if we wind up with any real funkiness, we can't be there because we haven't vetted it on this hardware. So make sure that if you're gonna go down this road, that you keep in tune with and things are going to get released. This is a work in progress. That's not one thing and we're done here, right? So here's a list of common questions here, right? Is there going to be an image translator like there was VAX to Alpha to Integrity? Don't throw things at me. No, there isn't. There will not be a tool like that available. Will there be direct access fiber channel? Yes. 923 will be the start of it. As I said, 16 gigabit adapter to start, 32 on the wish list. Because I know most data centers now are plugging in 32 gigabyte adapters, switches. Are there going to be common system disks in x86? Presently, no. Options are being looked at, right? So we've had that nice little chat here. Again, want to make sure that you have all the information that you need, that when you're getting into this x86 deal, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, that you just, you went down this path and you go, oh my God, we did all this and now they're not going to be ready with this, or we're not going to have that, it won't support this environment. Just make sure that we're there for you, and that we have vetted what you want to do. And then that way there, we can make sure that we're all fighting for the same cause, right? We want to be your key to success here, right? So use our teams to achieve your goals. We have a lot of people, a lot of resources, a lot of, I'd say some younger resources that have been through all this nice x86 stuff and, are really in tune with this. I'm an old VMS guy, so, migrations I've been doing for as long as I can remember, right? So, I know the nuts and bolts of that. Pretty much a lot of you guys I can know around the room, you've been through all this. However, making sure that the hypervisors are happy, and like some of these little things that we've shared with you today, we'll give you direction on how you want to handle your x86 migration. So we have plenty of teams to help. We have professional services, application services, managed services. This is my sales side here. All available to help you with these projects should you get a little overwhelmed with them and need additional support or anything like that. We have a team of people here that do this all the time. So I think just about getting there.
Yeah, a couple links and.
Yeah, and then these are the references. These are the links that we use quite continuously. And actually, since Debbie's here, I can even put her on the spot too.
Yay.
So, Mr. Kobe here, Mr. Kobe here has gone through a lot of work and has developed some pretty neat sheets of going through a lot of these configurations that I thought were very, very nice. How should we handle the disbursement of that information? Well, this is what I'm asking. So Kobe here has gone through the painstaking process of going through some of these installations, page by page by page by page, with all the little boxes and check marks and all that stuff. And when I did my second install and used his guide, I got my VM running pretty quick. So he's been through a lot of work with this. I'm kind of a great tester because I don't really know how to set them up. So if I can follow the instructions that you sent out and get a VM up and running, that's, to me, like that's pretty cool. So if you think those are something we should put on the what do they call it? Knowledge management, and customers have access to that?
Yes.
They do. All right. So I think that would be absolutely wonderful to get some of that stuff out there if you haven't done the initial builds, or you want to go through some of these, because I don't know, you have one that I did for VirtualBox, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have ones for other
VirtualBox was the very first one. It's funny, when I first made that one, I was on Windows 10, and for some reason that was completely seamless. Once we upgraded to Windows 11, problem after problem after problem came through. So I made a second one for Windows 11 on VirtualBox. But yeah, most of mine are written on ESXi. We have a lot of people who, with the increased interest in Linux, are moving on to the Proxmoxes, the KVMs, and I'm learning myself on that portion, but ESXi, I have quite a few.
Same thing, AVM and Linux.
Yes.
Small suggestion.
Every screen and every checkbook.
Yeah, everyone.
One small suggestion with KVM on Linux, which is going to become redundant. The guides have got command line, long timeline examples, but in the world of KVM, XML is the preferred way of interchanging definitions. So providing XML definitions of working virtual machines would be really useful.
Yeah, great call. We have one more and two more. Actually. You can go
You mentioned Proxmox yourself.
Yep.
Any gotchas, anything? Yeah, I haven't run a couple of Proxmoxes, but additional information?
Proxmox's installation has been pretty seamless from what I've tested so far. I think most of the trouble that I ran into with ESXi was based on whether I was putting on top of something, whether it was Windows, whether it was a different OS. If it's a ESXi server, and then you throw on a ESX host management, and you have your virtual machines running, it's perfectly fine. Proxmox,
That's Linux.
which runs straight off of Linux,
Yeah.
runs seamlessly. So it seems when the
There's
KVM,
nothing about QEMU or something that I had a support case about that multiple CPUs were not supported or something similar to that kind.
more than how many? More than one?
Yeah.
Really? On QEMU?
I can't remember. So
Yeah. Send me that because I don't think I worked that way. Yeah. But it seems that if the OS makes their hypervisor,
Yeah.
seamless integration. When you start crossing hypervisor makers with OSs, that's where some of the difficulty in the nesting comes about. So, no, Proxmox has been pretty seamless.
That's happened in the week. Two identical power rates.
Yep.
All the odd OCP board on, you've seen this movie before. Windows will enumerate them and number them differently on two otherwise identical boxes. When you move the virtual box and presume ESX and others,
Yeah.
and you aren't very careful to number them. There's a hardware name as enumerated, there's a name you call it, and there's the name that the virtual machine uses. Be very careful and keep it cheat sheet because they are not in the same sequence.
Right.
Port 5 may be the lowest number or not. And when you get VirtualBox, they generate MAC addresses. You can inadvertently land a MAC address that looks like one of the others and get yourself royally confused.
Right.
Use a P-motion, they stick though, right?
Yeah.
Enumerated. Yeah, I don't know either.
I just stumbled into it accidentally with bringing up a machine. I'm like, what?
Right. So I don't know what you wrote, but the installation guide is pretty good. So I
That's
don't
great.
know, I mean, more power to you.
Right.
Yeah.
These guides here, I'll tell you, I said I was the best guinea pig because I don't like it.
It-
So
I would
I
think
went
that-
through them all. I had a couple of things that I noticed throughout the way, but using these guides and then Kobe's even more informative guide, when I was doing the KVM one, if they're going to be on the portal, they'll be a big help trying to get some of these machines.
I would,
Quick follow-up, and with all these new hypervisors coming with Proxmox, do you envision not supporting any of the ones that you're supporting today? I know you can't predict the future, but is there something?
I would think if we went through this much effort to support them,
I would
we're not
say
going to unsupport them.
yeah, we would stay supporting. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank everybody for coming out for this, and thank you so much, Kobe, for your expertise and your information here. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the rest of the boot camp here. And as I said, Kobe had mentioned a couple of things of Camille's presentation that dovetails off of this, and Rob's
Brooks,
presentation as well. So all this will help you to get a little better insight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.